Love is love. Actually, now we move on to a very, God, it's like such a week, man. We talked about Doc, we talked about Shane. Now we got to move on to Chris D'Elia, friend of the show.
And all of these guys were on the show.
Everybody we've talked about has been a guest on
I'm
the
the
show.
commonality.
Yep.
You did this.
You know what? It really sucks is that I really like all these guys on a personal level. Doc is like such. Well, first of all, I'm not accusing anything of Doc. Let me step back. I'm not saying he did anything wrong. I don't know what he did. Doc is an awesome dude, though. He was like super entertaining, super funny. He's such a great guest. Shane is a.
We don't know them on a personal level, though.
From my, you're right. From my perception of having
having them as a guest,
having ran into them. Yeah. But, well, Chris D'Elia I actually do know more on a personal level than these other people. For example...
even then, it's not like we hung out outside of this.
No. But he, like, when Theodore was born, he sent us a gift, and I thought, I was like, oh, my God, that's so thoughtful.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was one of the few people that sent us a gift, and, like, for him to have followed that and sent... And it was a really nice gift, too. It was, like, a really cool toys and blanket. It was a really beautiful bag. I was honestly I was like, wow, that's so thoughtful of him to send that.
Yeah.
We texted a couple times about like Metamucil. We were laughing because I was like, dude, Metamucil safe, bro, is a game changer, and we were laughing about Metamucil and stuff. So I would, I liked him a lot as a dude. I thought he on his act, he's kind of crass and he's very like, I'll just say and do what I want and fuck you. But I was like, wow, on a personal level, my dealings with him personally, I was like, he's such a sweet, tender, caring guy.
Mm-hmm.
So when these accusations about Chris came out, I was just, honestly, my first reaction was just like, dude, like, why do you have, like, why, man? Why would you risk anything to just flirt with these girls on Instagram and fucking Snapchat? Just like, why would you put yourself at risk? Just like, fucking why, man? Why are you doing this?
It's a sickness. And that's what
it's a sex addiction. It must be some kind of thing. Because Chris always makes a big deal about how he doesn't do drug, or I don't know if he makes a big deal, but like it's pretty remarkable.
He talks about it like
he's like, he says, I have never tried any drug. I've never taken a sip of alcohol. I've never smoked a single puff of weed, and it's remarkable. It's like, so it's almost like his addiction is sex, is what it seems like, which is. I mean, the fucked up thing about a sex addiction is that, again, it by definition includes other people who are probably, are going to be deeply affected by what you do. Mm-hmm. Smoking weed and alcohol, maybe it can affect your family as a byproduct, but ultimately it's something you're doing to yourself. You don't need other people's consent. I'm not saying he raped anyone, but like there's a power dynamic, and I think it's just, I really hate to see, and I've seen it a lot, when these celebrities with power and influence indiscriminately use that to just fuck girls, and they and try to control and manipulate. And it's just like, dude, why? You can get a normal girl. You can get a girl, because like he's 30, I think, or 40. He's 40.
I think he's not 40. I think he was 35 in the time of some of those stories.
And so the vast majority of the girls are like right on the cusp of 18, like super young. It's like, dude, how about just fuck a 25-year-old if you want a younger girl, or just like find like a normal girl. Like, because the thing about 18-year-olds and girls around that age is that, like, they're, on the most part, I don't want to discriminate against younger people, but the maturity level against someone who's like 25, 30 is just so vast.
Well, yeah, and when you read their stories, they say the only reason I responded is because I told my friends that this guy messaged me and he's verified and all this stuff, and the friends were like, oh, he's famous, you gotta respond.
Yeah, because when you're 18, it's like, mesmerizing. It's like magic. Well, even in general, there's a lot of gravity towards being a celebrity, right? Like, it's like this mythical, magical thing, and you can really influence people with it. But it's like, but when you're talking about, I personally thinking back to myself as 18, I know that we legally consider 18-year-olds adults, but like I was very much still a child at that age.
Yeah.
I was far from adult at 18.
He was an adult.
But he was
That's
like,
the problem.
so
He was the one that should have known better.
So I was very disappointed, and I was just like, dude, why would you do, why? Just, dude, he had everything going for him. He was on top of the world. He was like, he's featured in this huge Netflix blockbuster that was like $100 million budget that like, and it's like, dude, he was on his way. He had it all, but I just don't understand why. Why would you risk all that just to fuck some young girls, man? Anyway, let's talk about what actually happened. There was, first of all, it was like the enormity. There was like dozens of girls that came out with similar stories. He said, I'll start with his statement on all this. He said to TMZ, I know I have said and done things that might have offended people during my career, but I have never knowingly pursued any underage woman at any point. Chris goes on to say, all of my relationships have been both legal and consensual, and I have never met or exchanged any inappropriate photos with the people who have tweeted about me. He finishes by saying, that being said, I really am truly sorry. I was a dumb guy who absolutely let myself get caught up in my lifestyle. That's my fault. I own it. I've been reflecting on this for some time now, and I promise I will continue to do better.
So I think in the beginning it started with some Twitter threads with those girls saying,
Here, I've got one here.
He reached out to me. I was under 18.
You know what was the craziest thing that made it even worse is that he played a pedophile twice.
Right.
In separate shows. First time in Workaholics. The second time in You. Dude, that made it so much worse. Anyway,
The You one was far worse because not only was it a pedophile, he was playing a comedian that preyed on young girls. He was basically playing himself.
Oh my God. So he said, let's see, what is this? Send me a pic. She sends she claims she was 16 at the time of this conversation. And he was apparently, in 34, 35. It was in 2014. Send a pic. She sends a panda. And he says, haha, the fucking panda dick. They're very exotic. Is that it? I guess she's just saying you don't want to ask a 16-year-old for pictures. Oh, here's another one. Imagine being 16 and being groomed by a stand-up comedian twice your age, and the only reason you never met up and got physically molested was because you had just gotten a boyfriend your own age. He says, hey, I'm in your town. Let's hang. Do you want to meet up tonight? Yes. Can we make out? He asked her.
And there's no proof here exactly of something illegal happening just from this screenshot. But the problem is that you start to see the pattern of what he was doing across all these different stories. And you can definitely see a predatory behavior. He a lot of times would start talking to them on Instagram and then switch to email or text or whatever. But on their Instagram, a lot of them say he could clearly see my age,
If you're on their Instagram,
it's the feed of a 16-year-old.
Yeah. But he says, I didn't ever knowingly pursue anyone underage. And that might be true, but you knew that you knew for sure that they were like, I'm right there. Maybe a little under, maybe a little over. But even regardless of that, it's like, I don't know. It's like, let's say this guy really likes sex. It's the only thing he cares about in the world. And he's like, I'm famous. I'm attractive. I just want to fuck whoever wants to fuck me. And so he's like, I'm traveling on all these towns. I'm going everywhere. He's like, I just want to fuck people that want to fuck me. I just want to fuck all the time. And so he's messaging everybody. He's like, hey, I want to fuck.
Yeah, the problem is that there is a common theme here that shows...
They're too young.
Yeah.
He's targeting people that are too young.
Yeah, at least for me, that just from observing what I'm seeing, it's definitely behavior that I think is
The problem
not
is when you
okay.
target someone that's so young too, is that like there's a good chance that you, because of your celebrity status, you'll be putting them in a position they're not fully comfortable with, even though they are consenting.
Yeah, that's why he's abusing his power.
Yeah, because they'll come over like, oh my God, it's Crystalia, and then he'll be like, you want a drink, and then he'll start acting inappropriately, and then she's like, I don't want to say no because it's Crystalia, and well, I came here, and of course he's expecting this of me,
Yeah.
and so they end up in the situation that they're very uncomfortable with, and they go through with it because of they're embarrassed or they're ashamed or yada yada yada, right? So like, let's say it's not explicitly rape, but he's putting people in situations that they're probably not fully comfortable with,
Yeah,
and they're so young they don't really know how to behave, how to back out of it.
Yeah, it's a good point because I feel like a lot of people will misunderstand these situations, and they're like, well, if someone didn't rape her, then she consented.
She was there by
then
choice.
What's the problem?
Yeah, it's gray. It's grayer.
It's he's the adult in the situation, and he needs to know better and to do better and not abuse his power.
And the fact that this went on for a really long time among a lot of girls, and so he kind of must, like, it can happen once and you're like, oh dude, and then maybe you're like, oh man, that was like, maybe I crossed the line, maybe I whatever. But these are specific stories that came out in the LA Times, because there's just tons of anonymous people, not anonymous, but tons of claims and accusations very similar to this one on Twitter.
And some of them had to go anonymous because they were actually getting a shit on by his fans, which is another problem for victims to come out with your story. Is not that easy.
No, I totally agree. It's horrifying because, like, you already feel guilty and you already feel ashamed. But then, so the most fucked up thing is that you feel guilty and ashamed because you know that if you don't say anything, then you'll enable other people to go through what you did. So it's almost like it's not, they don't want the attention, right? You have to understand that they can't live with the guilt of knowing that they're allowing this to happen to more people. So that is like a torturous, it's just got to be an awful feeling, like you don't want to go out in the spotlight. You've been put in this position by somebody else. You have this damage from somebody else. You just want to move on and get on with your life. But at the same time, you know that person's still doing that. And so you see yourself as obligated to say something morally. It's just, it's on all front. And then you know that his people are going to call you a liar.
It's
so
all bad for you.
It's just a horrible, horrible, horrible situation.
It's not a good sort of attention. They stand nothing to gain from it, the victims. Like,
yeah, it's horrible. I mean, there's just a pile of, it's just the worst from all sides.
It's awful for your family to hear about what happened to you. It's awful for everyone. And then on top of that, you have to deal with fans of that person who are going to come at you and call you a liar.
Email you, call you a whore, call you a liar. Yeah. I mean, dude, I think first of all, there are fake allegations, and that shit is so fucked to actually go on record and falsely accuse someone is as heinous as doing the act itself. But I think there's not as many fake accusations as a lot of people believe there are.
Not even close.
Yeah.
It's not even anything comparable.
I mean, there are them, and the
fact that they exist is true. And that they are heinous is true.
Yeah.
But whenever someone comes out with a story, your reaction shouldn't be immediately like, oh, this is a fake allegation. It's okay to want to read more and get the full picture, but
it's fair to be like, let's pump the brakes and let all the information come out before I make any judgment. That's probably the best approach.
But to
attack the person,
right? To immediately attack back is just a bad idea, because if it is true and most likely is true.
It is most likely. You can't argue, really. I mean,
I can tell you from my personal life, I like maybe like 95% of the females that I know have a story that is real. So it's crazy. It's way more than people realize. Way, 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 way more.
yeah, it is crazy. It is crazy. So, well, anyway, those are all just on Twitter, but the LA Times did an investigation, and this is all corroborated. So this is like real journalism. I mean, this is the LA Times. So these stories are to me really, really kind of seal the deal here. He says one of those fans was Jackie Cohen, a UCLA student who first started talking to Dalia when he responded to a picture of her on Snapchat, she said. Their conversation moved to text message. He wrote to her from the same number he used to correspond with another person, Holtzman, and was immediately sexual. Cowan shared screenshots of their exchange with the Times. Hey, he first said in June 2017. Hey, what you up to? She responded. You want to suck my cock? He replied.
Wasting no time, Jesus.
Should we not read this? Is it too...
It's part of the...
Or YouTube?
I mean, it's important. I think it's important. The 19-year-old told the 37-year-old she would give him oral sex, telling him she was looking for nothing but fun and would be gone with no strings after the potential encounter. That sounds like a perfectly fine experience, right? Two consenting adults. But then this is when it gets really weird, right? He goes, how badly do you want to hang out with me? Cohen said of the exchanges, I said, pretty bad. You're really cute. We get along. We don't have to go out. But he kept wanting me to prove myself before we could hang out. After months of on and off messaging, Dalia wrote to her out of the blue in August 2017, I want you to suck my friend tonight. Will you go do that for me? Soon thereafter, she said she began receiving phones and video calls from an older man who identified himself as Dalia's best friend. He told me, Chris just wants to make sure you're real. I want nothing. I promise. Chris is making out to be more than it is. Cohen said of the conversation, he kept asking for my address so we could meet up and I could be approved to meet Chris. But I wouldn't tell him where I lived. I only told him I lived in Encino. Later that night, she said she received angry messages from Dalia inquiring why she had not met his friend. My buddy, quote, my buddy drove to you, what the fuck, said a screenshot text. Jimmy Cowan, Jackie's brother, told the Times he was sitting with her while the exchange was happening and was creeped out, finding Dalia's request hilariously pathetic. Chris never had my consent to promise my body to anyone, added Jackie. I don't deserve to be treated that way. I never disrespected him. What hasn't been that widely reported is that Chris did release a lot of emails with the girls that publicly accused him, showing that they left out crucial messages regarding their age. What is that, Dan? That's his article from 625.
Yeah, he since then, and the story has kind of gotten buried a little bit. He most of the main people that accused him on Twitter, he went ahead and released the full conversations to prove that, you know, he wasn't doing anything untoward with underage girls. It doesn't really clear him from, I mean, that story that you just told doesn't even involve anybody underage. It's just him kind of being creepy in general. But, you know, as far as the stuff of targeting or trying to meet up with girls underage or whatever, he's pretty much, from what I can tell, he's exonerated himself on that. So, you know, nothing actually illegal, but that doesn't mean it's cool. It's just he's not going to get arrested for it, I guess, you know?
So, I mean, that's pretty strange to be like, hey, my buddy's going to come to you and get his dick sucked. It's like sex
strange.
Trafficking, right?
It's just...
Yeah.
It's beyond strange.
That one is definitely the worst one that I've read.
Well, then the other story that the LA Times covered was Dalia apparently had this is from the same article. He had a pattern of quickly taking his relationships with fans to sexual places. 2015, he performed in New York, and then this girl, Laura, then 19, a female friend who was 21 then, approached Dalia after set to request photographs with him. He obliged and invited the pair to a party at his New York City hotel. They came to the hotel. They made the hour-long drive, but when they arrived, they were surprised to find him alone.
Yeah.
We looked at each other low-key because no one was there. There was shrimp scampi on the counter, and he was watching Cops. There was no sign of a party. But I was so naive and excited to be there, I didn't even really see an issue. Before they could enter the room, Dalia told the women he needed to take their cell phones and leave them in a basket. Wow. I just assumed it was something that anybody with that level of fame did. I got to start doing that. I guess I'm not as famous as him,
You're
though.
not meeting anyone.
Yeah, and I don't meet anyone. I think I got to take your phone, Hila. He told us it was for privacy reasons. They said that Dalia offered them alcoholic drinks. He has long maintained he does not consume alcohol. That's interesting. And you know what's interesting? He's got all those bits about drunk girls, too.
Right, he does.
It's like, dude, you're an expert on drunk girls for someone who doesn't drink. And sat between them on the couch. He began complimenting them and groping their buttocks, they alleged, growing increasingly uncomfortable. The friends stole awkward glances at each other. I didn't know where his hands were gonna go, she said. We realized no one else was coming. He wasn't drinking. He was just saying she and I should drink. So we ended up getting up to leave. But as they started to gather the things, both women say he pulled down his sweatpants, pulled out his erect penis, and asked, "Are you sure about that?" They grabbed their phones and exited the room, later telling a male friend who had attended the show with them about the encounter. Their friend confirmed this with the Times. So, I mean, those both stories are pretty freaking weird.
Yeah.
It's like sexual deviancy for sure. So that's, I'm disappointed, dude. I just don't know why, man. He has a sex addiction. Just get help. And it's sad that he threw away this incredible career because he had this issue that he apparently, he had to have known that what he was doing was dangerous and wrong.
Unless he's in denial about it.
It could be that he justified it by saying, hey, they're all over age.
I mean, in his statement that he made to TMZ or whatever, he did say that he was in the wrong and took responsibility and got out of control or whatever. So, certainly now he's aware that.
Is there any evidence? He's had a huge growth in the past 3 years. Has there been any evidence come out that he's done anything like this in the past 3 years? Is he actually attempting to reform himself and it's just coming out now?
It might be. I think what happened is his role in the show You is what made, I think the first one that came out, she was like, I saw him play this role in the show and it was like, what the fuck? That's what he did to me. And that's why she wrote.
Oh, dude. So I think it's quite possible he's attempted to reform himself in the past several years, knowing that what he was doing was wrong. But ultimately,
I don't know that. Yeah.
I don't know that, yeah. But I don't recall seeing any allegations coming from the past several years. I could be totally wrong.
I just searched the LA Times article, and 2017 seems to be the most recent one, at least that they talk about in here. So,
just feel bad for everyone involved. It's like, dude, come on. I was like, bro, seriously, what the fuck?
So what do you think? My mind, of course, goes to the similarities with the Louis C.K. situation, and he's attempting a comeback with his career or whatever. Do you think Dalia in a couple years will be able to come back, or is he's done?
I was wondering about how it compares to the Louis C.K. thing. Louis C.K. apparently was receiving so I always hear conflicting things. He says he got consent to everyone he jerked off in front of, but then I also heard that he would stand in front of a door and pull his dick out before anyone gave him consent. So I'm still confused on
exactly what went down.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about standing in front of a door is kind of super rapey. It's weird.
Yeah, right.
Definitely.
If he did that kind of makes it.
So, but I feel like I don't know what happened. So my facts are not straight on the Louis C.K. thing.
I think
Louis' apology was he got a lot of respect for his just straight up owning. Louis, I think, is the only person to ever go through this level of canceling and just straight out come out and fucking own everything.
I mean, yeah, sort of. Still waiting to see what exactly kind of comeback he's planning.
What's already sort of been happening.
Well, he has a lot
he's
of
not
fans.
He's not gonna get back to the level that he was at.
He
but
has a lot
Yeah.
of fans. He'll
He's
always
doing
have
stand-up
fans,
again.
But no, but I mean, like when it happened, he made a release where he's like, "It's all true. I did that shit. I'm
Yeah,
sick,
that was
and I need
good.
help."
Right.
And I think I personally found that really refreshing to see somebody be like, owning it.
Yeah.
At the same time, Louis. I mean, first of all,
Honestly, it
it's
takes-
shocking to see someone jerk off, but Chris is like, I feel like,
it takes time to process these things. Like, I'm still trying to really process what happened with Chris, because at first it was these stories, and then I heard those, just the last two stories we just talked about, which really sound awful to me.
Yeah.
And in his case, I do think it's involving young girls, maybe underage,
yeah, that feels worse.
which
and
makes it really bad.
And that he's having sex with them. Like, seeing someone jerk off is shocking and it could be traumatic, but I think, like, the intimacy of sex is probably...
Honestly, they're both bad. You know?
Yeah, they're both tough. They're both tough. What am I comparing the Holocaust to the Armenian genocide over here? Except, let's tone it down, Ethan.
Probably not quite as bad.
Nobody
as those two
died.
events,
But the point is that, why are we comparing them?
Yeah.
Yeah.